Welcome back to China Uncensored. I'm your host, Chris Chappell. China celebrated its third ever Space Day on April 24th. And what better way to celebrate than with this video from the China National Space Administration? It shows the history of the Chinese Communist Party's space program. But more importantly, it reveals the party's plans for a moon base. And potentially some kind of Earth-destroying laser. Okay, I'm not sure about that last one. Anyway, there's an ancient legend about a Chinese princess named Chang'e who lives on the moon in a lunar palace, until the evil Queen Beryl used the power of the Negaforce to destroy the Silver Millennium and kill the Moon Princess, who reincarnated on Earth. What's that, Shelley? Yes, I know that's the wrong Moon Princess, but Sailor Moon is way more fun. The point is, the Chinese Communist Party is rebuilding China's ancient moon kingdom.
China's dream of residing in a lunar palace will soon become a reality.
Although their palace might not be so glamorous. Back in July, they locked 4 students in a capsule similar to the one they plan to build on the moon, cultivating plants using seeds and fertilizer made from their own poop. That is less fun than astronaut ice cream. Don't worry, the Chinese Communist Party is not launching students to the moon to survive off their own poop. Matt Damon already did that on Mars. No, the Communist Party's plan is to send containers of flower seeds and silkworm larvae in containers like this one on a December trip to the dark side of the moon. But surely there's no dark side to China's moon ambitions, except, well, you know how the United States space program, NASA, is a civilian organization? Well, China's space program is a branch of the Communist Party's People's Liberation Army. So China's moon base will actually be set up by the Chinese military. That's because to the Chinese Communist Party, space is the final frontier of war. I'm not making this up. That's according to this report to the US government. Chinese military analysts view space as the ultimate high ground and claim that space warfare is inevitable, and for the Chinese military, seizing the initiative is to achieve space supremacy. The report warns that the Chinese regime is developing capabilities that could also be used to attack US bases and the bases of its allies in Asia, as well as targets within the 50 states. Yeah, turns out that's no moon, that's a battle station. The moon is a key part of China's long-term space warfare strategy. Richard Fisher, senior fellow with the International Assessment and Strategy Center, says China wants to control the Earth-Moon system. By doing so, it can impose a toll on the space economy ambitions of the West. A key part of that is helium-3. And no, that's not what Xi Jinping will inhale to sound like Sailor Moon. Helium-3 is a key fuel for nuclear fusion energy, an almost unlimited source of non-polluting energy. And while there's basically none of it on Earth, some estimates suggest that there are at least 1.1 million metric tons of helium-3 on the lunar surface, enough to power human energy needs for up to 10,000 years. And there's yet another reason why the Chinese Communist Party wants to set up shop on the moon. According to the legend, the moon has already been Chinese territory since ancient times, because Moon Princess. But now, the Communist Party is looking to put that claim on more solid footing. According to a 1967 UN treaty signed by over 100 countries, including China, no one is allowed to own the moon. But the Chinese Communist Party still wants a slice of the moon pie, the same way they've been carving out slices of the South China Sea, and setting up military bases there, even though the rest of the world has been telling them they're not allowed to. And for the party, sending a spacecraft to the moon may provide a compelling case for recognition if the moon were ever to be carved up into zones of research and economic development. So flowers and silkworms on the moon count as territorial claims, right? Of course, China isn't the only country going to the moon. And who is this mysterious rival? Why, it's US President Donald Trump, and he wants to join Xi on the moon. In the 2019 budget for NASA, the president's space policy directive is that the United States will lead the return of humans to the moon. It puts moon funding above even another space station. And Trump is the first president to ever seriously talk about putting U.S. troops in space.
My new national strategy for space recognizes that space is a warfighting domain, just like the land, air, and sea. We may even have a space force.
Make space great again. Not that it ever wasn't. I assume Trump is also going to build a space wall to keep out those illegal aliens. So, the US is competing with a communist superpower to build rival moon bases. The 60s are back, baby! Hopefully they don't bring back the constant fear of impending nuclear annihilation. But in terms of this new space race, the US is already winning, at least when it comes to spending. The US spends about $21 billion a year on NASA, while China only spends $3 billion on its space program. Though the Chinese Communist Party has gotten some hits in. They were responsible for hacking NASA climate satellites in 2007 and 2008, but no permanent damage was reported. The thing is, space is already part of modern warfare. GPS for soldiers and missiles, communications, wireless internet, even a lot of spying. That all relies on satellites in space. Destroy those satellites, and you can cripple a much larger army. That's something the Chinese regime understands. It's been decades since the last space race, so a lot of this moon-based stuff sounds more like science fiction. But it might not be as far away as we think. And this new space race could make for some strange bedfellows. So what do you think of China's moon plans? And will Tuxedo Trump and Sailor She ever get over their differences? Leave your fan fiction below. Thanks for watching this episode of China Uncensored. Once again, I'm your host, Chris Chappell. See you next time. You know what requires funding besides secret moon bases? China Uncensored. Thanks to YouTube demonetization, we rely on support from viewers like you to fund our operation. If you'd like to learn how you can support the show, visit patreon.com/ChinaUncensored.